The Jacksonville Jaguars are approaching the NFL draft, and we are giving some more of our wish list. We're going to do day 2 today. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? What is happening? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I am the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins. We're at your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. Make sure you head over to YouTube and hit the like and subscribe button, and also hit the bell so you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. And then your audio podcast, wherever you listen to those, make sure you tap in every single day so you do not miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. I've been getting a lot of feedback from everyone that are motivated by the mock drafts that I put out or the ideas that I may submit and talk about here on the show. So I want y'all to know I really, really do appreciate it. Even if I don't respond to them all, don't take it personal. Sometimes I'm busy. Sometimes I do it in between other tasks. But I do notice that a lot of people are being influenced about the things that I'm saying when they're using their mock drafts. And the purpose for that is this. You're not going to get them all right. I don't get them all right. And I tell folks that all the time. The purpose is to allow you to have fun with a reasonable amount of realism about how the draft could go, about where things might fall, what players will be there, what players maybe we don't even know that, but we're doing the best we can at it, and trying to be realistic about what the expectation should be for the Jaguars. Because with the pressure that a lot of folks are putting on Trent Baalke, and look, I'm gonna say it again. I have been the biggest critic of Trent Baalke in the world, but what I won't do is sit here and act like what he does is an easy task, because it is not. And that's why I like giving this information for fans to really, really have a chance to almost put themselves, of course, without the ultimate consequences or the repercussions that may come from it, to kind of put themselves in that position and show you this is not as easy as folks think it is to always get it right. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to criticize it anyway, because it comes with the territory. So today we're going to discuss who should Jags target on day 2. Yesterday, I said the guy that if he fell to them, it would be a no-brainer selection. And I don't do that for a whole bunch of prospects that I like. I like a lot of guys, man. And they're going to get, 10, 11 picks. I'm telling you, there's 140 dudes that I think can play. And I really, really like a lot. And there's half of those I'm saying, ooh, I'm really excited about them. So there's a lot out there, okay? They only end up with 10 or 11, but still, that does not mean that all of these dudes that they don't end up with can't play. Especially, some fans think that because a guy gets picked up by the Titans or the Texans that I'm going to think he sucks, and that's not the way that this works. Fandom works that way, and that's fine if you want to move that way, but that's just not realistic to me. Who should Jags target on day 2? Yesterday, Quinyon Mitchell was my guy. He is that dude. So I'm going to write his name down here. He is that dude. I said, if they get him, if he's there, just run the card up there, right? And I saw something that Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl, said when he was comparing him to other guys. And it was very similar to something I said on yesterday's show. And I saw Jim's post on the X app after. Jim said, to him, there's no comparison. It's Quinyon Mitchell, and then it's the other 2 guys from Alabama. It's the rest of them. He says he's a clear 0.2 faster on his recorded time. He's bigger. Okay. I mean, it's like a no-brainer from an athletic standpoint. And that was the point that I was trying to make yesterday. Like, when folks are saying, you target this position in the first round, that position, I said, no, we're going to target people. We're not going to target positions. And I made it clear yesterday that if Quinyon Mitchell was there, I'd take him. If he wasn't, I probably wouldn't even take a corner at that spot. I'd move to another position, depending what player is there, even though I like the other corners. I just think it's getting closer and closer to the time that we need to start zeroing on certain players. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do it in round 2 and 3, though. We're going to talk about guys that are reasonably going to possibly be in the vicinity. If they're not there when the Jaguars pick, it would only require a little bit of movement and a little bit of shifting, maybe even up or down, to still land guys. So what I want you to do is then uh, look at those guys grouped together and see if there's a common characteristic or common traits, some sort of common DNA where you're going, I like that injected into the team. I think that's real important that you get like-minded guys. We've discussed it. Football, guys that love football, we've talked about those guys that will bring that lunch pail to work and will fall in love with the process. And the process is going to be what helps them show up on game day. But the process, what I mean is the work, the everyday work. How do they approach it? Does that sometimes when you approach it a certain way, you also get a dietitian and start watching the things that you put into your body and not hanging out all the time. And I really want to zero in on guys that bring that workman-like attitude to a team that really does need to continue to always inject self-starters into their organization. So we're going to talk, if they go corner in round 1 like we did, then what? We'll hit that in segment 2. And then we're going to look at some sleeper prospects. But first, I'm going to give you a name, right? If the Jags went corner at first with Quinyon Mitchell, I would still probably, because of the depth of the cornerback position in this draft, on day 3, when they have multiple picks in the 4th round, while they're probably targeting offensive line, I would also not hesitate at all, to draft a nickel like Jarian Jones if he was there because of his versatility. So defensive back is an area that I would probably touch twice. I think the Jaguars are using 4th and 5th round picks on developmental offensive linemen to see if they can turn them into something. At least the rumor, and shout out to my man. He knows who he is if he's listening too. I ain't gonna mention his name because I didn't ask him permission to do it. But I hear that the workouts and the things that Coach Phil Rauscher, the offensive line coach, is doing right now is he's mainly focusing on guys that are day 3 targets that they're going to try to draft and develop, which leaves cornerback, defensive tackle, edge, and wide receiver as the positions that we're focusing on in the first 2 days of the draft. So we've got the corner taken care of. When they get to 48, just say they don't trade. A reasonable thought at 48 would be that they'd still be looking at wide receiver. They'd still be looking at defensive tackle. They'd still be looking at edge rush. Of those 3, I think edge rush is where if you don't get them now, you're going to fall off a cliff. You better get one at 48, and I think there'll be good guys left. Braylon Trice is a name that I really like, more so than Jonah Ellis. I just think with the Jaguars, it's always about traits and length. Jonah Ellis is 6'2", 246. Braylon Trice is 6'4", 275 or 274. I really do think that's where they're going. They're going. I can't see them. They already have Muhammad on the team, who is that 6'1", 6'2", 250 type. And I know you like different body, Yasir Muhammad. You have different bodies in the room. I don't think they need another body like that. And I think Muhammad's going to have a real good chance to play special teams, is also be a pass rush specialist on this team this year under Ryan Nielsen. I think they're going to utilize all of those guys. So I like Braylon Trice because he matches up with the rest of the traits of the rest of the unit and what usually Trent Baalke is looking for. He's out of Washington, big, strong dude. I really like him. You have to wonder with Tyler Lacey, who they picked last year in the 4th round as a developmental prospect, with the way that they're going to play. The Jaguars ran a 3-4. They ran a 3-man and odd front last year. And Lacey, when he did get in the game, he played one of those end positions. He backed up Adam Gostis. I think this year they're probably going to put weight on him and slide him into a 3 technique spot. They may still leave him out at big end in an even front, but to me, I think a better player for that would be a guy like Braylon Trice. But neither one of those dudes is the name that I was going to mention. My target for that area, and I'm going to mark him down as the Jaguar selection, is Marshawn Kneeland. I love Marshawn Kneeland as a football player. If you want, go ahead and look at the highlights. And I know that's what a lot of people do when they say they watch tape. Look back at the highlights and see exactly what characteristics and what traits and the type of player that Marshawn Kneeland is. For the record, I'll tell you right now, he's not a complete player. As of this moment, Marshawn Kneeland is not really a complete player. And a lot of these guys have things that they have to work on. I just like his movements. I like his body type. I like he's 6'3". He's also over 270 pounds, somewhere near 265, 270. I just really believe that for what the Jaguars need, he's perfect. He is absolutely perfect. 6'3", 275, good length, but really, really an explosive type of athlete. I really, really like Marshawn Kneeland as a prospect and as a football player. I really do, man. He's from Western Michigan, smaller school, but the only thing that might bother some people is if you go with Quinyon Mitchell in the first round from Toledo, and then you go with Marshawn, you're not going to these big schools. You're going to smaller schools. And with the way the transfer portal is and all of that stuff, that doesn't bother me very much at all. So I really, really do think that I just think Braden Fisk was at a smaller school just a couple years ago. And then he went to Florida State, and then he went and tore up the combine. So I really, really do believe Kneeland will give them a shot in the arm, be that can compete for a third rush position, give them a lot of versatility with a lot of size on that front. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Marshawn Kneeland as my wish list for the Jacksonville Jaguars as their second round pick. Now, don't sleep on the 2 third-round picks that are coming up, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you exactly who else the Jaguars should be going after. If they go corner in round 1, we've already given them the edge rusher. Now we'll hit up round number 3, where they have a compensatory pick. And maybe if they had moved back a little bit in the first round or even the second round, maybe they end up with an extra pick in the third round. We'll get to it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Got to let you know about eBay Motors, man. eBay Motors is the absolute truth. We have talked about eBay Motors a lot, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback because passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, back here on Locked On Jaguars. I say back like we went somewhere, which we really, really did not. We went Quinyon Mitchell, Marshawn Kneeland in the first 2 picks. That's Toledo and Western Michigan. And I know everybody's sitting here like, you done lost your mind. Why on earth would you go to those small schools and get those good players? Because, in my opinion, we don't care about that. You need to be able to evaluate and find guys wherever you can in the draft. And those guys have tested. They've proven themselves at the Senior Bowl. They stepped up in a competitive environment with competition and showed what they can do to NFL scouts. So therefore, I think those would be excellent choices so far. Now let's get to round 3. Now we got some decisions to be made, because I'm going to give you a name of one guy I don't think that's going to be there. Do we go wide receiver or do we go defensive line? if we've already touched the defense twice, I'd say we need to go offense and go wide receiver. Not sure if either one of these players is going to be there in the third round, right? But since I went to two smaller schools early, I'm going to give the Jaguar fans a gift. And that gift is going to be that one of them is going to be there. All right. The only way I'd still be tempted with a pick in the 90s to go defensive tackle is if Michael Hall hasn't gotten picked yet. And I know it's wishful thinking, but I think he's going to be gone in the second round, and somebody might do it at the end of the first round. I already took a visit to Kansas City, so somebody might do it at the end of the first round. And even though the Chiefs need a wide receiver because Rashee Rice is an idiot, and they still needed a wide receiver, even though they got Hollywood Brown, I think that they're going to look and say, you know what? That's too good of a player for us to pass up, and we can put him right smack next to Chris Jones. And they move Chris Jones around a lot too. So Michael Hall, I think, is in danger that he's going to be here, but he is the guy that if he's there, it might keep me on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think he's going to be there. I do think Dwayne Carter has a chance to be there, interior defensive lineman out of Duke. And I know that's going to drive people crazy. We go Toledo, Western Michigan, and Duke, but you can't get caught up into that. You have to really look at the players for who they are, right? And I know a lot of GMs, and Trent's an old school GM who probably wants to go big school, large body of work. So this is the T-Wig version of what do I want them to do? Dwayne Carter is a real good player. I think he might still be there when they pick at the end of the third round. The issue for me is we got to touch wide receiver. So here's the two guys that I think they should target. One of them has absolutely no shot at making it to this spot, and maybe both of them don't, right? So Ricky Pearsall is the dude that I'm telling you in the second round, when we discuss taking Marshawn Nealon, that's also the spot where I think they ought to think about Ricky Pearsall. But I don't think Ricky Pearsall is going to make it to 48. But this is still my thinking. He's a hell of a football player, will be really, really good in Jacksonville, right? I think Javon Baker might fall down to that third round. And even if he's not there where they pick, maybe the Jaguars can do something and move up if they start seeing a big run on the second level of wide receivers. Well, the third level, because the first level is the first three, and those guys are probably top 6, top 7 picks. And then when you get down to the next level, there's a whole nother level, and then there's this other level, right? This is the level that's the third level, but it's really the 2B to the 2A level. Javon Baker, I'm going to pick him, and I'm going to put him down as my guy that's the wish list dude. Transferred from Alabama, went to UCF, and absolutely showed his butt. So we're going Toledo, Western Michigan, UCF. And I know if he's like, man, are you crazy? You know, well, they've done a lot of picking from the SEC and the Big Ten and the Jaguars, to be honest. That hasn't worked for them over the years consistently. So this is the way we're going. All right. We're going Quinyon Mitchell, Marshawn Nealon, and Javon Baker. Javon Baker's an acrobat. He's strong. He has this innate ability to separate while the ball is in the air. And there are guys that have done that in the past that I talked about. Steve Smith Sr. did it. Antonio Brown did it. But yeah, he did it, right? Antonio Brown definitely did it. Jamar Chase does it right now. There are just some people that play a physical brand of football, but for some reason, when the ball is in the air, and I talked about this, I think I spoke to John Ledyard about this once. I said, they just have this innate ability to just turn the jets on and separate and create separations and attack the football in traffic. So I really do like Javon Baker from UCF. I think he is the other player that the Jaguars could possibly get. Now, so what I'm going to do now is go in the 4th, 5th, and I probably won't go too further than that, but sleeper guys that may be on the board when the Jacksonville Jaguars continue to select on day 3. So we've done day 1 and day 2 first. Before I do that, I want you guys to know this, that Locked On has launched the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. And if you're tired of hearing dudes on Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV yelling all day, here's what you need to do. A free 24 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring the biggest stories without all the screaming and yelling. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so we're about to run this down and get to day 3 of the draft. I will tell you exactly what I would do at that point in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, segment number 3. As we continue to trek through the draft of some wish list names, some realistic wish list names here. So let's just assume that they do go corner, defensive end, wide receiver with the 3 guys that I mentioned: Quinyon Mitchell, Marshawn Nealon, and Javon Baker. Who do I think they target late? Who do I think they target late in the draft? I wouldn't be surprised if they touched up safety again, but I don't think the safety I like a lot is going to be there, and that's Jaden Hicks. To create competition, the uncertainty about whether or not Jaden Hicks is a kid out of Washington State, the uncertainty of whether or not they're going to be able to re-sign Andre Cisco. If he has a good year, I don't think they're going to franchise tag a safety, but if he has a good year and they don't work out an extension early, it's something that you could possibly see. So we need to give them an interior. We need to give them a bit of a defensive lineman. Like I say, if they don't take Dwayne Carter, I don't think they're going to be able to get him in the – I absolutely do not believe that they'll be able to get him too much later than the 3rd round. Sometimes you're just going to miss out on guys, right? And, for me, that's exactly what they would do if they did not take him at that position. So I'm going to look at some more defensive tackles right now. I'm pulling this up, the guys that I really, really like, because I do want them to at some point probably address that. I'm a big Ruke Orororo fan. Huge, but he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone in the 2nd round, I believe. I'm not a big Brandon Dorless guy, but he's more of a big end type that, he's kind of like Lacey. He's just probably a better version of it. Tavondre Sweat is not somebody I think they need to target or go after, even though he does give you some goal line and 1st and 2nd down flexibility. When I said flexibility for a man that's 362 pounds, I don't think he's there. It's interesting. I'm looking on the PFF board, and I didn't realize that Michael Hall and Dwayne Carter were both ranked right in the 4th round together. I don't think that's going to hold up, because I think Hall surprised people with his weight, that he was a little bit bigger than I expected. So if you're looking at the defensive tackle, one name that comes up, and y'all going to kill me because it's from another small school, is Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa. But he's 6'4", 317 pounds, and he's sitting right in a spot, at least according to the ranking on the big board, and he gives you something that you only have one of. You only have one 6'4", 300+ pound guy. Even though I think Ledbetter's a pretty sizable dude, but I'm talking about that's jumbo, like a Devon Hamilton, right? And you always, sometimes, even though you want your guys to be mixed up a little bit, you always still want to have, okay, you got Devon. Do we have another guy like that? Christian Boyd's a very interesting prospect, but I do not think that Trent's going to push his luck and go to too many small schools. I tell you what, there's a duo at LSU that's pretty good, but Mika Wingo is so small, I just don't see 3 technique with him. I think he suffers from the thing that people thought Michael Hall was going to suffer from, but the difference is, now Mingo pops on tape, but I think it's going to be with him, a team has to really, really fall in love with him, and Trent would have to overlook a lot of things. His teammate, Mason Smith, though, Mason Smith fits the bill for what you would think the Jaguars really, really like at 6'6", 315. The only issue is I think he's going to be gone because he is also someone who is a fast riser. So I don't think that that's an area or a person that they would go after at the defensive tackle position if they were going to do that on day 3. Logan Lee is a really, really good player from Iowa at 6'5", 291, who I really, really, really like. I like Miles Murphy potentially from North Carolina. He's another dude that was really, really ranked high out of high school. People will always see that and they'll love that talent. Folks will love the talent and they'll go, we need to just go ahead and snatch him up. Justin Rogers, I think, kid from Auburn at 6'3", 346 pounds, and Marcus Harris, his teammate at 6'3", 295, are both guys that I do think would garner some consideration on day 3 for a team still looking for a defensive tackle. So just in case the Jaguars don't address those first 3 positions, and they have to come back and they have to look at the defensive line in round 4, I got another player that I really, really like, and I don't want to screw his name up. I really don't want to mess the kid's name up. That if they don't go with an edge rusher in one of the first 3 rounds, and I'm not really talking about a pure edge rusher, I'm just talking about somebody that has the versatility to play inside and outside. And I don't want to screw his name up, but he plays at Alabama. Okay. I think his name is pronounced Igbogi. I think his name is pronounced Justin Igbogi. That's what I believe. I believe that's how he said. Ibogbi, if that's how it's said. But he's 6'5", 292, and he's also that type of player that if you look at Eric Armstead, he's an inside-outside guy, right? He played in even and odd fronts. He can line up at the big end spot, the 3 technique spot. I think he can probably even 2 gap also. But he's also another interesting player. Look, so guess what we're going to do? That's where we're going in the 4th round. We're going with Justin Eboigbe, right? I think that'd be a very, very good fit in the 4th round. Other sleepers, if we're talking about continuing to touch the safeties, and I think what they're going to do, the reason why I'm so harped on that is because I think you have to really, 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 if you're looking at DBs and you got this new DB coach, I think you have to really, really surround him and give him and weaponize him with guys that are very, very multiple. You think about Chris Richard, you think about Baltimore, you think about them having 6. If you watch the game, they got 6, 7 DBs, and all of them have these various body types, and they really, really, really get after it. So I'm gonna bless him with depth at safety in the 4th round, and we're gonna give him Cole Bishop out of Utah. So here's what we got so far if you're a Jaguar. Quinyon Mitchell, corner. Marshawn Nealon, edge. Javon Baker, wide receiver. Justin Eboigbe, versatile defensive lineman is what I would call him. And what I would put him in the category of is a guy like Adam Gostis, where you're going to be able to play him in multiple positions, and he provides a lot of depth, and it's developmental youth and developmental depth that maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, when you're sitting there and guys like Eric Armstead or Devon Hamilton are getting up. Well, Armstead's getting up in age. Devon Hamilton may be getting to the point where it's time to start re-upping and thinking about giving him more money. But you have to turn around and take inventory of your team. And this is what the Baltimores of the world have done for years. They've developed their own guys. And that's why I'm going with Justin Eboigbe, all 6'5", 292 pounds. And then Cole Bishop gives you another look at safety, a guy who can play in the open field, but also has the size to guard tight ends and come down like a heat-seeking missile and tackle when in the box. So those are the 5 guys that I have given the Jaguars in the draft. I want you to use that, counter it, come back to it. You can tell me it ain't going to happen, but you're wasting your time with that. I know it's not going to happen like this. But this is giving you an idea of folks that may be there. I use the PFF big board for the sake of this. It's not the board that the coaches are using, but for the sake of this exercise, just for continuity, that's what I did. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me how you feel about it, and make sure you tap into Locked On Jaguars. Have a nice weekend. It was nasty yesterday, but the weather out here is absolutely gorgeous. Happy watching of the Masters tournament. Tiger Woods is still hanging around, so make sure you enjoy that. Also, the thing that I want you to do is make sure you check out Locked On, because we've launched the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus. our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. All right, you guys have a nice weekend. Take care of yourself. Make sure you tap back in with Locked On Jaguars, which is your team every day. See you later.